And St. Ed's, 6:30. It's Maslin and Menor on 1480 WHBC Sports.
Your severe weather station, News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Here's your AccuWeather forecast for tonight. It'll be partly cloudy and cold, the low down to 19. Not as cold on Saturday. Lots of clouds around, the high moving up to 39. Then periods of rain on Sunday. Going to be a damp, raw, and chilly day. The high only 41. Monday, occasional rain and drizzle in the afternoon, but it'll be milder. The high moving up to 53 to kick off the week. Get your weather news when and how you want it wherever you are, and download our free app. I'm meteorologist Jason Caterina for News Talk 1480 WHBC.
Live from the studios of News Talk 1480 WHBC, it's Kenny and JT.
And welcome back to the Kenny and JT Show. Thanks for joining us on this Friday the 13th. For Browns fans, yeah, that might be a scary day for you because of our next guest, because he was a terror on the football field when he played for the Pittsburgh Steelers back in the 70s, the Steel Curtain days. The greatest cornerback, in my opinion, in NFL history. They changed rules in the NFL because of my next guest, Mel Blount from the class of 1989, joining us today. How are you, Mel?
Hey, I'm great. I tell you what, it's been a great 3 days up here in Canton, being back home. So I'm doing good. It's good to be here.
You're part of the Hall of Fame Residency program, and we have loved being a part of this Hall of Fame Residency program. They bring you guys back. A lot of times you come back for Hall of Fame weekend, and it's very short. It's the parade, the ceremony, and then you're out. They decided, let's put together something where we can bring back for 3, 4, 5 days some of our Hall of Famers to get to see all of Canton and the surrounding area and be a part of the community. And that's what you've done since Wednesday here, right?
Yeah, that's true, and it's been great. I been moving around the city. When you come in for the Hall of Fame ceremonies, I mean, you're just bombarded with your schedule, and you don't really get a chance to see Canton or get out in the community. And so this gives us an opportunity to get in the community and really interact with people that you have an interest in. Like my interest is kids and horses. And so I had a great visit yesterday out at a horse program, the Horse Whisperer, with Bill and his wife. And then just moving around the city. We're going to do something with the Boys and Girls Club today. And so those kind of things that really intrigues me.
Yeah, and it's nice for the fans and the community to see you out and about as well, right? As opposed to just maybe driving by and waving in the parade. You're actually in the building talking to people, and being a part of the community.
Yeah, I spent a lot of time over at the hall with people coming in, shopping, and met one lady from Colorado with her son. I just thought that was great. Her husband had a job down in Columbus, and they drove up. She brought her son up to the Hall of Fame, and they flew in from Colorado, and they were flying back out tonight. The kid was just overwhelmed. He got a chance to get a picture, and so he looked at my bus, and then we went over to the kiosk. I said, okay, now type my name in, and so he got to see some highlights of me.
Nice.
And this kid might have been 10, 11 years old, but it was just really, really nice interacting with people like that. And they, all the way from Colorado, had no idea they'd get a chance to see me. And I thought it was great.
That is so neat. I mean, how cool is it? Okay, we're going to the Hall of Fame, and there's a Hall of Famer. So here's a chance to meet, photo opportunity, autograph, whatever. But then, because of what they've done now at the Hall, it's so interactive, right? They can learn about you even though they weren't even born back then.
It is amazing. I mean, every player that's in the Hall, all you have to do is type their name into the kiosk, and you can read about their career, or you can see video on them. And I just think it's been really amazing what the Hall is doing, how they're keeping our legacy alive. And so we appreciate everybody that's over there working and all the Hall is doing for players like us.
Well, when you go there and you type in Mel Blount, you'll see that he was part of the Hall of Fame class of 1989, 57 career interceptions, 13 fumble recoveries. That means 70 turnovers alone recovered by this guy right here. 4 Super Bowl victories. Defensive Player of the Year, 1975, one of many Steelers in the Pro Football Hall of Fame from that dynasty of the 70s. And I grew up right smack dab in the middle of that. And as a kid, every Sunday there was church and then there was the Steelers, and it depended which one you worshiped more as to what you did on Sundays.
That's true.
You know what I mean?
I'm laughing because that is so true, man. The 70s was so crazy because, what happened, the Steelers had never won anything. And all of a sudden, this team just started coming together. And my God, we won that first Super Bowl. I can remember vividly how we got off the plane at the Pittsburgh airport. There were people lined up from all the way down the Parkway, all the way into the city. It was the weather was cold. It was crazy. I mean, I could not. So, but what happened in the 70s really transformed that city because there were a lot of changes taking place in the business world in the city, the steel mills and everything. I mean, the city really, and I think because of the Steelers and the Pirates, transformed and reinvented themselves. And it's a great story. It's a great legacy to be a part of, really. And the older I get, the more I appreciate it.
Isn't it funny how that happens, though, right? You were living it as part of the greatest dynasty in the NFL, in my opinion. Screw the Patriots. So now you look back on it, though, and how many lives you touched without even knowing it back then in the city, and it's created the greatest fan base in the NFL, whether they play at home or on the road, and it was because of what you guys did.
Yeah, and that's amazing. We go to games away from home. In fact, we were in Las Vegas when the Steelers played the Raiders. And when I tell you that 80% of that stadium had yellow terrible towels waving them around, it was the most incredible scene. We went to Atlanta this year. They opened up against Atlanta. And it was the same thing, just incredible fan base. And they travel. Everywhere you go, you're going to have some Steeler fans when the Steelers play.
Mel Blount, when I think back on your career in Pittsburgh as part of the, that steel curtain defense, each level of the defense was dominant.
Right.
The line, the linebackers, and the secondary, and there was an anchor for each, one. It was Joe up front, it was Jack in the middle, and it was you on the backside. You come out of Southern as a third-round pick in 1970, coming to, like you said, an organization that hadn't won doodly squat.
Right.
Did you know anything about the Steelers when they drafted you, or anything about Pittsburgh at all?
I had no idea about the Steelers, and I went to school at Southern University in Baton Rouge, and I wanted to play for the Saints. That just shows you how. But I think the best thing happened to me was coming to the Steelers because they were looking for players. When you're 1-13, and that's what the Steelers was when they drafted Bradshaw and myself and Ron Shanklin. You're looking for, so it was an opportunity for a young player like myself to display his skills and to learn and grow, and that's exactly what happened. And I'm grateful for that because I think had I went somewhere else, the story would be totally different. Because when I came out, I was just a talent. I wasn't a polished. I had trouble identifying formations. I had trouble just playing zone because all I ever played was man coverage in college, and so there was a learning curve there. And by being with the Steelers, it gave me that ability and that time to learn and grow because they were looking for players and they were building. It wasn't a team that was already built. They were building a team, and you had a chance to prove whether or not you could play.
Well, you proved it. The unique combination of size, speed, physicality, all of the above. So much so, as I introed you, they changed rules because of you and your physical style of play. Where did that style come from as you embarked on your NFL career? And then how tough was it to change it because of the rule change?
Well, first of all, when I come out of college, we played in one of the toughest conferences in historical black college history. We had Grambling, Jackson State, and any one of those schools you can name Hall of Famers that came, whether it was Walter Payton, that was coming from Jackson State. At Grambling, you had Ernie Ladd, Big Daddy, all those guys who are in the hall played in those, back in those days, because your top black athletes didn't have opportunities to go to a LSU or Georgia or Florida, so they were going to these historical black colleges, and so it was every day you were playing against some of the best talent in college football. And so you learn how to be physical, you learn how to be tough, and it made you better because iron sharpens iron. And so that's where I got my skills and my physicality and really attitude from.
And how did you adjust when they said, okay, this is the Mel Blount rule, you're not allowed to be as physical at the line of scrimmage or within, the first 5 yards, that's it. Did that change your game, or did you just play the same way, and if you get called, you get called?
No, I adjusted, and that's what great players do. You adjust to the rules. I mean, once the rules change, you say, okay, you got to change because these are the rules. I still was able to get the jams. I still was able to, within the 5 yards, and then after that, run with the receiver. And we still went on and won 2 more Super Bowls, so it really it didn't do nothing but put a chip on our shoulder. But yeah, it was great. I mean, playing under those new rules. And when they first did that, I was telling the group today, I was somewhat insulted because it was like they're saying that's the only way I knew how to play.
Okay.
And so it kind of put that chip on your shoulder, say, okay, I'm gonna show you. And the other thing it did, it just opened up the offense for Swan and Bradshaw and Starworth. Those guys just lit the league up because now they could get open and get free without being hassled and bumped. So it was a win-win for everybody.
Now that you say that, I didn't really look at it from that perspective.
Yeah.
But your last 2 Super Bowls, that's when Bradshaw was the MVP, and you guys started slinging it more in part because of that, right?
And it was because of the rule change. Because what happened was, I mean, Bradshaw became like a hero. I mean, he was, the guy had a cannon for an arm anyway. But those receivers, Starworth and Swan and Benny Cunningham, they were getting open. It was a great thing to see, and I think, and I'm gonna give you a little backstory behind that. Paul Brown was he coached the Cincinnati Bengals. In fact, he was the founder of the Cincinnati Bengals. We were going against him twice a year, and Paul Brown wanted to beat us. And Paul Brown saw how I was handling Isaac Curtis. You remember Isaac Curtis?
85, absolutely.
Wide receiver, fast, he could run. But I was getting after him on the line of scrimmage. He couldn't get off the line. Paul Brown was head of the competition committee. So that was one of the reasons that they started changing the rules. Not only did they change the rules in the secondary, remember the head slap? Mm-hmm. They took that away because of LC and Joe and Ernie and all. So it was the Steelers that, not just the secondary, Mel Blount, they was trying to slow down. They wanted, because we had dominated, we had won 2 Super Bowls before they changed the rule. And so all that was a part of the greatness of the players that we had on the Pittsburgh Steelers team.
I've talked with a number of Steelers over the years, Hall of Famers, non-Hall of Famers, back from that era. Mm. And while you won in 74 and 75, 76, 78, 79, okay? Right. The 76 team, the
best team we ever had.
There it is again, Brian. See?
The best, and I tell you, you can ask any player that was a part of that. That was the best. We were so dominant, and the records we set on defense, and I mean, we were just dominating on defense. But then we played Baltimore. At that time, they were still in Baltimore.
Right, the Colts.
We played them in a playoff game. Franco, Rocketball, both of them got hurt.
Yep.
And we went out to the Raiders. And Chuck was ahead of his time, Chuck Noll, because he came up with that 2 tight end offense. Nobody had never seen it. We didn't even know what it was. I don't think the offense knew what it was either because we couldn't score. But anyway, they tried to implement that, and we just did not have enough firepower on offense. But that team was so awesome that everybody that was a part of that team would tell you that's the best team that we had, and we didn't win anything.
And that's why I brought it up, because I'm thinking it's one of the 4 Super Bowl teams. And I would say 90% of the Steelers that I've talked, the defense that year, because you knew you had to be dominant because the offense and then the injuries and everything. What'd you pitch? 5 shutouts that year, I think it was?
5 in a row. And what happened, Bradshaw had gotten hurt too, and I think
was it Mike Kruzak?
Mike Kruzak was the quarterback. So the defense, we just turned it up a notch or two, and it was an incredible run that we had there.
Yeah, I'm pulling it up right now because I'm thinking back to it. That team was just so dominant because of the defense and the ability to pitch shutouts. 23-6 over the Bengals, 27-0 over the Giants, 23-0 over the Chargers, 45-0 over the Chiefs. So 1, 2, 3, 4 shutouts in a row, and then you closed the season with 2 more shutouts and posted a 10-4 record going into the playoffs. And I've said to this day, if one of the 2 doesn't get hurt, you probably win 3 in a row, which nobody had done, still hasn't done to this day, as the Chiefs are trying to do that this year.
Yeah, we definitely had a Super Bowl caliber team, and because of injuries, things just didn't work out. But I think you talk to any player that was part of that group, they would tell you we were just special, awesome.
Well, I brought a picture that I took as a kid going to Latrobe, Pennsylvania in 1974. I want you to look at it because in today's world of the NFL, we see so many videos of guys training, personal trainers, the weight rooms, and everything that athletes have today to get better. And I took a picture of you guys in your weight room at Latrobe in 1974. And I'm going to hold it up for our viewers up there, and then I'll let you look at it. This is how the Steelers worked out lifting weights in their weight room in Latrobe, Pennsylvania. It's weights on a field at Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
That's right.
St. Vincent's College. You remember those days?
That's right. I got a picture of myself lifting weights right out there on that field.
And that's a picture of Jack Lambert shirtless with John Kolb, L.C. Greenwood. And I couldn't make out who the other guy in the background was, but I remember going up there and being able to get that close and take pictures of you guys back in the day at St. Vincent College up there in Latrobe, Pennsylvania.
Yeah, I'm trying to. I don't know.
Is that Kruzak? I wasn't sure if that was Kruzak maybe, or maybe it was one of the tight ends. I wasn't sure who the last guy was.
Looks like one of the linemen.
Okay.
I really can't.
But that's how different it was, right? Back then, they brought the weights out to the field, and you guys lifted weights out on the field.
Yeah. That's where we. As soon as practice was over, we went over to the weight rack, and we started lifting weights.
And John Kolb was a fiend, wasn't he, in the weight room?
Yeah.
Back in the day. Here, Brian, you can hold that up. Give them a close-up that are watching on Facebook. So, but it was so unique back in the day.
Who is this guy?
Yeah, that's you and me at our previous event that we did at the Pro Football Hall of Fame. I actually blew it up to show you that, and the signature cowboy hat from Mel Blount.
Yeah.
Brian said, is he going to have? I said, yes, he'll have his cowboy hat on. It's a tradition.
Especially in this weather.
Got to keep the dome warm, right?
Keep the dome warm. That's right.
My. Mel Blount is our guest. He's part of the Hall of Fame Residency program in town this week here in Canton with the Pro Football Hall of Fame. Kind enough to join us in studio here at WHBC. And Mel, the Steel Curtain, the original Fats Holmes, Dwight, L.C., and Joe Green. I hear about the 85 Bears. I hear about Ray Lewis and the Ravens. But that front four and then your linebackers of Jack Ham and Jack Lambert, Andy Russell, and then you leading that secondary with Glenn Edwards and Mike Wagner and other guys. I'll put your defense up against any in the history of the National Football League. Is that me being a homer, being from Pittsburgh? Or do you think that's a fair assessment?
Well, I think it's a fair assessment because we had players. I mean, we didn't have any holes in our defense. Every position, as you mentioned earlier, we had players and Hall of Famers. But what has happened in sports now is with ESPN and all these outlets, everything is publicity, everything is, blown up. But when you really look at the players, that's where you can tell what kind of team you have. And we didn't have any weaknesses. We didn't. And so there have been a lot of great defenses. The Bears, the Ravens, as you mentioned, and even the Patriots, they've had good defenses. But I don't think we take a back seat to anyone.
When you think back, and it's funny because Shell said defense, Lynn said offense. What was the strength of the Steelers teams of the 70s?
I think you just said it. Everybody thought they were good, and that's strength. When you think and believe that you can get something done, or that you can score, or that you can stop someone, and I tell you, and I say that because we went at each other in practice as if they were the enemy. That's how we covered Stallworth and Swan, and that's how they came at us, as if we were that defensive back that they wanted to,
right,
posterize. But that's healthy competition because, as I said earlier, iron sharpens iron. And that was the kind of mentality and the mindset that we had in practice. And it carried over into the games.
It's obvious. I mean, if you could stop Swan and Stallworth, you could stop anybody. If they could beat Mel or whoever, they could beat anybody,
and
right?
that was it. We went into a game on Sunday. Look, we done practice against the best all week. These guys that we're playing, all we got to do is go out there and dominate because we know we played against the best. These guys we're covering is not as good as what we practice against, so we're good to go.
All right, so outside of your teammates, who was a tough cover for you? Somebody that, I don't want to say gave you fits, but it was the ultimate challenge for a Mel Blount.
Well, I'm going to tell you this, and this is not a political answer. When you get to the NFL, everybody's a tough cover. Okay. Charlie Joyner, who's in the Hall of Fame, Cliff Branch, who's in the Hall of Fame, Isaac Curtis, who was a great player, Kenny Burroughs. Every Sunday you line up out there, you was lining up against a professional, and they could beat you if you wasn't on top of your game. And that's just the way pro football is. And they say it all the time on any given Sunday.
Right.
It's
true.
Anybody
right?
can win. That's true.
So many great rivalries back when you played. Let's start with the fiercest of them, and that was the Raiders and the Steelers. And I'm surprised, Lynn has still got his wits with him with the way they targeted his heads with Jack Tatum and those guys. And you guys, obviously, with Jack, yourself, and Mean Joe, thus the nickname, got after those guys as well. What was it like, and how physical was a Raiders-Steelers game and that rivalry?
Well, it was physical, and it was a group of guys out there, testing each other's manhood. That's really what it was about. And they thought they were better than us. We thought they were better. We thought that we were better than them. And so when you have a group of athletes on the field like that, and with that kind of competition, it's going to be a tough day. It's going to be a tough day, and then there are going to be some things that happen might not be really within the rules of the game. And when you talk about Lynn Swan, how they targeted him, and it was unfair, and everybody knows that. And but you're not going to intimidate anyone because we're professional. We're men, and we're going to go out and play the game, and we're going to do whatever we have to do, and that's what happened. I think that the Raiders, they were a good team, but they wasn't the best team. And we were a better team, and we were the best team, and that was the mindset that we had.
And the year that Lynn won the MVP in the Super Bowl, he almost didn't play in the Super Bowl because of the concussion he suffered in one of the playoff games against the Raiders. He told us, about that, and he goes out there and has one of the greatest games ever by a wide receiver in a Super Bowl. So that's to your point right there that you're not going to intimidate us.
Lynn was special. He was a kind of guy that he knew how to track the ball, and he acrobatically could do just about anything. And it's almost like he could walk on air in there,
Right.
you know, and the catch he made in Super Bowl.
Which one?
Super Bowl
Right,
10.
right, but I mean, there were so many great ones in that one.
I mean, it was like this guy jumped out of bounds and came back in the air and caught the ball. I mean, it's just the most incredible play. And then the one he caught falling down. So he was just a special, gifted athlete. And I just thank God that we all came together on the same team to be able to do what we did in our careers.
The other rivalry, closer to Canton, just up the road, against the Cleveland Browns. What were those games like back in the 70s? You guys controlled it as far as wins and losses, but still, we remember Jack taking on the entire sideline of the Browns one day at Old Municipal Stadium and just the back and forth in those games.
Well, I think there again, it's players wanting to compete and, you know, pride and bragging rights, you know, the turnpike rivalry.
Yep.
You know, we were right down the road. In fact, at the end of my career, the last 3 years, we started busing up to the game. We used to fly into Cleveland. Now, then all of a sudden they found out, well, it's cheaper and more convenient just get on a bus and ride for a couple of hours and you're at the stadium. But I think because of the proximity of the two teams, you know, obviously it's like, you know, who's going to control this territory.
Right.
And so the Browns were competitive. They wasn't a dirty team, but they didn't have the same caliber of players that the Steelers had. And so we dominated.
Yeah, you did. And to this day, you know, it's still a rivalry. They won the first game this year. Steelers win, you know, the second game. So no matter what the rosters say, you never know what's going to happen in a game like that.
And I think it's good for the fans.
Yeah.
You know, it really is. And we're so happy that Cleveland has, you know, first of all, they was 4 years without a team. Then they get back, they get a team and still maintain the name, the Browns. And, you know, we want them to do well because when they do well, it's healthy for the game. It's healthy for the fans and the popularity of the rivalry. So we're hoping that they can get something done. But I think this is just my personal opinion outside looking at the organization. They've made a lot of bad decisions. I think it was a bad decision to bring the Watson in with the issues that he was having, paying the kind of money.
Yeah.
You know, it's a big setback. I don't know when they will recover from that, but that is a big deal.
Well, it's going down arguably as one of the worst trades in NFL history.
No question about it. And so you got great players. I mean, their defense is strong, but they got to get somebody, the signal caller that can, you know, take some of the pressure off the defense and get some points on the board.
All right, you're here because of the Hall of Fame residency program. At any point in your career as it's evolving, are you thinking about being a Hall of Famer? And then when you finally do get that call, class of 1989, going into the Hall of Fame, what did it mean to Mel Blount?
Well, it's special. I mean, anytime a player, I don't think anybody signs up to make it to the Hall of Fame. You know, that never crossed my mind as a player. I mean, and I played 14 years in the league. I never thought, man, one day I'm going to be in the Hall of Fame. I mean, you know, no player, in my opinion, thinks about it. You just want to go out and play the very best you can play and be the best you can be. But when something like that happens to you, it is truly the most highly recognized and accomplished award that you can get. I mean, there's millions of people who played this game, and the numbers, I've heard them several times, how many played pro, how many have played in college, and how many have played in the pros. And just to have 300 and some guys in the Pro Football Hall of Fame is pretty elite. And so I'm grateful for it, but never in my wildest imaginations I thought I would be a Hall of Famer.
Yeah, and not just you, but, you know, you go up and down. I think L.C. Greenwood should be in with Joe from that defensive line.
I agree.
Okay? That to me, you know, if I'm looking at two Steelers that aren't in that should be in, Hines Ward on offense and L.C. Greenwood on defense from two different eras, but two similar style players that they did whatever the team needed them to do.
Right.
And money bags with the shoes, and they didn't keep sacks way back then till later in his career. So those are the two that I think should be in if I'm looking at two guys that aren't in right now.
Well, there's so many guys, not just on Steelers teams, but around the league that are deserving. But the question is, what determines a Hall of Famer? Who make those decisions? And then you have voters, you have writers who are voting on guys that they never seen play.
Right.
I can think of guys around the league that should be in. I think Doug Williams, who was the first black quarterback to ever win a Super Bowl and be named MVP, he's not in the Hall of Fame. And you got guys like you mentioned, LC, another Steeler, Hines Ward. And I'm sure there are guys on other teams who have teammates that are in the Hall of Fame saying, you know what, I played with this guy. I know he should be in.
Right.
But it's a tough ticket to get.
Well, and that's what they say. It separates the best, the good from the best, and the best from the greatest. And the greatest are the ones, and like you said, approaching 400, but not there yet. There's only 300 and whatever it is in the Pro Football Hall of Fame. And it's a unique fraternity, and you're one of the guys in it.
Yeah, it's a unique fraternity, and I think every guy that you would talk to that's in there will tell you that they're blessed to be in there, and that wasn't their goal when they started playing football. It just happened.
It happened in a big way, though, for you as part of that dynasty. 4 Super Bowls in 6 years in Pittsburgh in the 70s. And I want to thank you as a kid, first of all, growing up, getting to have Super Bowl parties and, enjoy and being spoiled by all those great years. And then thank you again today coming in here on the Kenny and JT Show and joining us as you're in town for the Hall of Fame residency program.
Thank you, Ken. It's been a pleasure.
Hey, it's a lot of fun. Always great to see you. You look fantastic. As he can still play today. That's how good a shape that Mel Blount is in, and he'd still dominate the way he did back in the 70s. We'll get a break in right now. We'll come back with more of the Kenny and JT Show right after this.
The Roadman and JT on 1480 WHBC.
The Kenny and JT Show is presented by Roosters, a fun, casual